जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ जयो गिरिवरधारी जयो गिरिवरधारी जयो गोपी जन वल्लभ जयो गिरिवरधारी जयो गिरिवरधारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी जयो राधा माधव जयो कुंज बिहारी नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय सच्चिदानंद जय सच्चिदानंद गौर हरि जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा पार्थ साथी राधे जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रील प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल 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 हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की
जय
श्रीला प्रभुपाद की
जय
निताई गौर प्रेमानंद
हरि हरि बोल
हरि बोल जय जय श्री राधे
श्याम।
So, anybody learnt any verses and would like to recite? Those who didn't last time, at least 2 verses याद करने हैं कार्तिक में खासकर अब last 5 days हैं भीष्म पंचक के. It's a lot benefit to chant to memorize the verse. Anyone? I'm going to do a quick quiz to recap on what we've done so far. Chapter 2. Does anyone remember? Okay, let me ask Reshma. Reshma, do you remember the last verse that we did in the last class?
Remember in the sense?
No, do you remember which verse we did last?
27. We finished 27.
Yes, that's right. So I'm going to ask you. Sorry. Hello. Hello. Yes, Mataji. I have shared with you last time. It's the same. So, okay. Just star it, huh? You star it so that you can just go to the start messages and see it every time. Okay. All right. Okay, thanks. Okay. How many kinds of aggressors are there according to Vedic injunctions?
2.
Ishita? How many kinds of aggressors are there according to Vedic injunctions? You may raise your hands. Anyone who would like to answer that can raise your hand. All right, let me give you clues. 2, 3, 10, 6. Yes, Meena. Unmute, please.
6.
Yes, सही जवाब. इसे लॉक कर दिया जाए. You're right. So there are 6 kinds of address. Do you also remember which ones?
To give poison to someone, or kidnapping of others' wife.
Wife, yes.
Land.
Fire
Land, yes.
Land.
3.
Or
Grabbing somebody's land, 3, yes.
और किसी को हथियार से मारना,
Killing someone, 4, yes.
और किसी का धन हड़पना,
Yes, yeah, cheating, grabbing somebody's 5, yes. And 6th,
भूमि लेना,
Giving poison. Giving
हो
poison
गया,
to
poison हो गया,
someone.
भूमि हो गया, हो
हाँ.
गया.
किसी के घर में
6,
आग लगाना,
yes, setting somebody's house on fire.
Fire. हाँ.
So what do the Shastras say? What does Manu Samhita say? Manu Samhita is the law book for mankind. It says that anyone who commits any of these 6 can be killed without incurring sin. You have the right to kill them. You will not get any reaction. So there are 6 kinds of aggressors. Okay. If Arjun did not believe in the existence of the soul and he accepts that life develops from chemicals, then why there is no need to lament? I'll repeat. If Arjun, so here this question is regarding the counter logic that Krishna is giving to the logic that Arjun has given to him for not fighting. Okay. So as a counter logic, Krishna is saying, okay, if you do not believe in the existence of the soul, and if you accept that life develops from chemicals, then why there is no need to lament? Because Arjun was a Kshatriya. Yeah, sorry, yes, Hema.
Because anyways, body is going to, if you are not believing that the body, you are not a soul. So anyways, body is going to die. Then why to lament?
Yes, correct. If Arjun does not believe in the existence of a soul and life is just a bag of chemicals, a decoction of chemicals, then if Dronacharya and Bhishma are just a bag of chemicals, on killing them, that chemicals are just going to get mixed in the mud and earth. What is there to cry over a bag of chemicals? Yes, Anjali?
But then did he even suggest Arjun that he does not believe in the existence of the soul? He never said that, did he?
He did not say that.
The very fact that he was scared of getting repercussion means he believes in the existence of the soul.
Correct. Yes. So Krishna is checkmating him with this, that if you believe, also there is no reason to lament. But if you don't believe, also there is no reason for lament. So he is giving him this solution, this logic from both ends. That if you are coming from an atheistic point of view also, your logic is wrong for not killing them. And if you're coming from a theistic point of view also, believing in the soul, still your logic is wrong.
Means if he believes in the soul, then the soul cannot be killed, cannot be, and all that, right? That is the logic.
Yes.
Acha. And if he does not believe, then to already it's a bag of chemicals. Then
So
why
phir bhi
lament?
kya rona hai? Yeah, so
Okay.
he's checkmating
Alright.
him that even
Okay.
if he raises this kind of a logic in future. So this is basically for all those people in society who have atheistic views. So from their point of view also, he's saying either ways there is no reason to lament. What are you crying about? Okay, the analogy given of 2 birds in the same tree, of which one is eating the fruit of the tree and another is watching the activities. So why is that so? That the bird who is eating the fruits is in anxiety and sad and struggling very hard. If you imagine there are two birds sitting on a tree and one is eating the fruit, whereas the other is not. जो फ्रूट नहीं खा रहा, एक डाल से दूसरी डाल कूद भी नहीं रहा, फूलों को भी नहीं, फूलों की महक को भी एंजॉय नहीं कर रहा, वो तो शांत खुश बैठा हुआ है, रिनाउंस बैठा हुआ है. लेकिन जो एंजॉय कर रहा है ट्री को, फूल भी खा रहा है, फ्रूट्स भी खा रहा है, दूसरे चिड़ियों के साथ भी चींची कर रहा है, वो दुखी है. The one who is eating the fruit is dukhi, and the one who hasn't is. Why is it so?
Because his mind is the one who's eating, uska mind divert ho gaya hai, and he's not looking divert from the master, from the one who's watching, and he's busy eating and enjoying the fruits. So matlab
Yes.
us taraf dhyan na deke towards the master or the spiritual master or Bhagwan, us taraf dhyan na deke uska dhyan dusri taraf hai, isliye I
Yes.
guess anxiety.
Yes, anybody would like to add to that?
Yeah, actually, the bird who is eating is busy in self gratification. The
Gratification.
senses are never satisfied. That is why he is sad.
Yes. Yes, Meena.
सॉरी मैं भूल गई क्वेश्चन. हाँ,
Two birds on a tree.
बर्ड्स में से एक सोल है, एक सुपर सोल है. जो सोल है वो अपना रिलेशन भगवान से भूल गई है और वो जो फ्रूट्स हैं उसको एंजॉय करने में खुश है. तो वो कभी एक फ्रूट को लेता है, कभी दूसरे फ्रूट को चखता है. वैसे ही एक बॉडी से दूसरी बॉडी में जाता रहता है. जब उसको अपना रिलेशन दूसरे फ्रेंड से या सुपर सोल से याद आएगा और उसको पहचानेगा, तब वो उसकी वो एंजॉयमेंट खत्म हो जाएगी और उसका ध्यान सुपर सोल की तरफ जाएगा.
That's right. Excellent. All nice answers. Thank you. It has really summed up the gist of the other verse. So options here are because it has forgotten its relationship with the witnessing bird, because it is not accepting the witnessing bird as the supreme. That's why. Because the bird who is eating the fruits is not in control. He is not the controller. However, the bird sitting beside him is the controller, and he's not developing a relationship with the controller and trying to control himself, the tree and its fruits. So naturally, if it's not in your control and you're trying to be the controller, you're going to be dukhi. Atyant dukhi. Not just dukhi, atyant dukhi. All right. Does the soul produce any byproduct? Yes or no? Okay, I'll say yes and raise your hands. How many say yes? Does the soul produce any byproduct? Okay. Reshma is saying yes. No? How many are saying no? 3 are saying no. 4 are saying no. The others are undecided.
That was no actually.
Acha. No. So anybody saying yes? Why not? Soul does आपके बच्चे नहीं है? How many of you don't have children here?
But it's not the production of a soul.
They are products of body.
But the super soul can produces the souls. क्योंकि परमात्मा के अंश में super soul can produces the soul by products, but the soul can't.
All excellent Vidushis in Nandini. Sahi jawab. That's the right understanding. We are not capable of producing souls. In fact, we did this verse in the second chapter only, I think around 16 or 17. I'm not sure about the number, but Krishna very clearly says that Prabhupada is saying in the purport that even the children, your children who appear are individual souls, actually. आप उनको अपने बच्चों के रूप में देख रहे हैं, लेकिन वो individual souls आए हैं. You know, before coming to you, they were individual. After going from you also, they will be individual. And with you also, they are individual souls. playing the role of your children currently.
Can we
Okay.
say that वो body, but then body उनकी हमारी है, not ना
No, हमारी कहाँ है?
नहीं है, उनकी
No,
है.
we are the mediums. That's
Yes,
it.
we are the media.
We're just the mediums through which they
Mm.
appeared.
Okay, yes.
That's it. But they are individual souls. They belong to Krishna.
Mm.
And they have, Krishna has given them in your care to do your duty and give them knowledge of Krishna. That's why they have been given to us. Okay, the soul is floating in dash kinds of air situated within the heart.
5.
Wow.
Though
5, 7, 9, 11. Yeah. Yes,
Five.
Anjali?
5. Though I haven't still understood those types of airs, but I remember the number is 5.
You know, all that is just technical knowledge. You don't really
Okay,
have to.
yeah.
It's like saying, Mujhe, sorry,
If you
Shweta?
want, I can just give you an idea because I've done it in yoga, the 5 kind of air.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. We have 5. That is, first is apan. Apan is towards the lower side, below your navel region. Apan is basically related to your digestion, excretion, whatever we excrete out, sweat or, basically excretion. So, and above that is saman. Saman is the solar plexus area. That is related to your digestion. Okay. And above that in your chest region is pran vayu. And uske upar above your neck is the udan vayu. They work in that region. And Vyan is all over the body, circulation. So we usually depict it towards the sides of the body. When we stretch on our sides, we actually activating our Vyan vayu. That improves your circulation. So it's good for your heart. So what we do in yoga and during meditation and during whatever we practices we do, we're trying to lift our apan vayu towards our pran vayu so that it goes up instead of getting wasted out, only to be used in excretion, not for anything else, the apan vayu. We try to lift it up. That is what is reaching your higher consciousness. So basically these are the 5 vayus inside us. And there are many more. There's some vayus that work for, blinking of eyes and everything. There are many vayus. These are the main 5.
Thank you,
Okay.
Shweta. I wish we saw you also. So I was writing down as you spoke. Apan is excretion, saman is digestion.
Yeah.
And then comes chest. What is that?
Yes, pran.
Pran, yes.
Pran.
And udan is
Neck
neck
Udan.
and head.
Neck
Udan.
and head.
So the way to remember is you, the shape of you. That's how I remember. Udan vayu works in this area, brain and
Acha.
all that,
You,
circulation
Udan.
in this. And Vyan is throughout the body
Sides.
for circulation. If you want to improve your circulation and your heart, so we work on the Vyan vayu. We stretch and we move around so that the Vyan vayu moves. So
Vyan
that's
is
how it
circulation.
works. Yeah, throughout the body, Vyan.
All right. So I hope the confusion is clear
Yeah.
once and for all.
This all
If
vayus
you
are
want, I'll share
connected.
a chart with you and I'll share a little, article, a small. If you want, I can share it with Vinita and a chart.
Okay. Yes, Hema, you were saying something?
No, I'm just adding that all these vayus are connected to the 7 chakras
Yes,
within our body.
that's right. So I will request Monica to say the verse. Verse number 20.
8. 28.
Monica, can you do that?
अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्ता मध्यानि भारता अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their intent, manifest again when annihilated. So what needs is there for lamentation?
Okay. So let's read the purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers always in the world, one who believes in the soul and one who does not believe in the soul. Krishna is saying there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are atheists by Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if for argument's sake we accept this atheistic theory, still there is no cause for lamentation. Why? Because apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From the subtle state of unmanifestation comes manifestation. How? You can imagine just as from ether, understand ether as space. So from space, air is generated. From air, fire is generated. From fire, water is generated. And from water, earth is manifested. And from earth, many varieties of other manifestations take place, right? For example, you make a big skyscraper out of earth. But when the skyscraper is pulled down or dismantled, the manifestation again becomes unmanifest. And it remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. So all that debris, that kuda and kachra, that comes from the skyscraper is actually the skyscraper itself. It's just a dismantled form. So it's just unmanifested, but its parts are still there as those atoms. So it never really finished. It just changed its form. Earlier it was vertical, now it's horizontal, but it's still there. So this is the law of conservation of energy. It cannot be destroyed. It'll just change its shape. In due course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That's the only difference. That today you've made a building out of it. Tomorrow you will make a boat out of it. Day after you will make a factory out of it. You know, you will keep on giving it different shapes, but you cannot really finish it. Those atoms will always remain, right? So what is the cause for lamentation? Either in the stage of manifestation or now, just because the building turned into a boat, will you cry? Or now the boat has been taken apart, a huge ship, maybe a cruiser ship has been taken apart and has been made into a factory or a shop. Will you cry? It's just changed its shape. It's still there. So somehow or other, even if the unmanifested state, things are not lost. Nothing is really lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested. And only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. Before taking this body, we were like an atom, like a tiny soul floating. And after this body is finished, again will be a soul. So we were unmanifest earlier. Right now we are manifest. And after a while we will again be manifest. But the soul will remain the same. So what is there to lament? And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, antavanta ime deha, but that the soul is eternal, nitya shoktaha sharirana, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. So why lament for the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky, sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we see that we are neither in the sky, nor are we a king, neither are we sitting in a chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or does not believe, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. So, the real purpose of life, therefore, is to connect with the soul, to make friendship with the real us, the real person inside this dress that we are all wearing currently. And it's a temporary dress. we are going to change this dress when it becomes old. जैसे पुराने कपड़े हम दे देते हैं, ऐसे ये भी जब पुराना हो जाएगा, we will want to change it, discard it, and take a newer version. So there is no reason to get so attached with the clothes. The person you should be really taking care of and getting attached to is the soul inside you and the super soul inside you, the real you. Okay. Does anybody have any doubt here? Because after this, we are coming to a very interesting verse. The name itself of that verse is an amazing verse. It's the most amazing verse of the entire Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Who wants to recite? 2.9.
Vanita, this is Vaiji. Can I do it?
Yeah, sure, Vaiji.
Okay. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschit enam Ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyah Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti Shritvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all.
So this is the amazing verse. It's full of amazing, amazing things. So Ascharyavat. Ascharyavat means amazing. Pashyanti means to see. Then the next line is Ascharyavat vadanti. Vadanti means to describe. And the third line says Ascharyavat shrinoti. Shrinoti means to see. See. So what does it mean? That some describe the soul Ascharyavat pashyanti. It is amazing to see. Some may say Ascharyavat vadati. It is you may describe the soul as amazing. Or Ascharyavat shrinoti. It is amazing to think of. Some hear about the soul and think of him as amazing. Some describe, some look on the soul as amazing. And some see as the soul as amazing. Whichever way you look at it. Even after hearing about him, one cannot understand him at all. So there is a very interesting that I read about this verse. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan has given 2-3 interpretations. For example, supposing we say Ascharyavat can modify people as the subject. Ascharya, depending on the translation, you can say that some people describe the soul as amazing. Just a minute. Some people look amazingly at the soul. Or you can say that the people who are seeing the soul are amazing. Or you can say that the power to see the soul is amazing. All three meanings nikalte hain from in this Ascharyavat. Pashyanti, vadati, and shrinoti. And all three are coming to the same conclusion. Whether you translate this verse as that some people who are amazing are looking at the soul, or you say that some people look amazingly at the soul, or the people who are seeing the soul as amazing have the power to see the soul as amazing. Either ways, the soul is amazing. Whether it is pashyati, vadati, or shrinoti. So let's read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since Gita Upanishad is largely based on Upanishads, it's not surprising to find this shlok in the Katha Upanishad. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, it's in the body of a gigantic banyan tree. At the same time, it is also in germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. For example, the soul that is running the body of an elephant, that same soul is also operating the body of the coronavirus, COVID virus, which you can't even see. You need a very high power microscope to see. But the same soul is driving the COVID virus. The soul that is driving the body or animating the body of a rhinoceros or a whale or an elephant or a giraffe, these are very big and strong animals. That same soul is also driving or animating the body of the coronavirus, which is so tiny and minuscule. Isn't that amazing? But men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. It's very difficult to understand the difference between the body and soul if one is not austere. Austere means, would anybody like to explain or share the meaning of austere? Right now we are in Kartik Mas. And of the Kartik Mas also, we are in the Bhishma Panchak. And all the Shastras encourage us to take some austerity. What is austerity?
Restrictions.
Yes.
Observing restrictions.
Yes, control. Self-control. Restricting food, sleep, comfort is austerity. Getting up early in the morning, taking a cold water shower, eating less, giving up sweets, giving up something that you really like. Chanting is austerity, kyunki man nahi lagta. But taking a pledge to chant the holy names of the Lord more, speaking less, abstaining from gossip, abstaining or withdrawing yourself from all kinds of materialistic things, at least for this 1 month of Kartik, or the last 5 days of Bhishma Panchak. In Kali Yuga, these itself are very big austerities. What to speak of going to the jungle or to the mountains or the Himalayas and live in a cave. Tapasya. Austerity is tapasya. So people who are not austere, who are not used to hard work or a life of self-control, for them it's very difficult to understand the difference between body and soul. So owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle as a soul can become great and small both at the same time. It is great because it is moving even the universe, the planet. At the same time, it is so small that you still have not invented a device that can measure the size of a soul. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful, either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding. Even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. So if you are not used to leading an austere life or have no taste for austerity, the subject matter of body and soul is always going to be a mystery to you. And despite giving all good counsel and understanding, You will not be able to understand this. So I think now the world is going back to an austere life. More and more intellectuals and thinkers of the society, you can see on YouTube and blog and bloggers, they're all talking about how we do not need the things that the supermarkets and the consumer industry is forcing us to buy to become happy. It is actually propelling us towards more and more comforts and entertainment, which is making us spiral into depression and anxiety more and more. So more comforts are like poison to the body and also to the mind. That is the root cause of growing cases of suicide and depression and anxiety. Because we are going away from austerity and going more and more into comfort and entertainment of the senses. So perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. Nobody is even thinking that maybe the solution to my problems, maybe the solution to all these problems in the society right now could be in self-realization or in trying to understand the difference between the body and soul. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures, they may be in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. So there are people, majority of the people in the society today who are thinking, they think, but at best, how deep can they think, or how much further can they think? They at best accept the super soul and the atomic soul as one. Atma and Paramatma ek hai. At best they can reach this understanding. That Atma hi Paramatma hai, Paramatma hi Atma hai. There is no distinction between the two. There is no difference between the qualities of the two. It's very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of Atma and Paramatma, super soul and atomic soul. Atomic soul is Atma, super soul is Paramatma. It's very difficult to find a person who actually, first of all, acknowledges and understands that there are two, not one. There are two souls within each body, a soul and a super soul. And even if you find a person who understands this point, out of those also it is very difficult and rare to find a person who understands the difference between the two. At best people think ये दोनों same ही हैं. हम ही भगवान है, भगवान ही हम है, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, नमो नारायण. Okay. So the position of the super soul and atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details. They have no way of understanding that one is the source, the cause, and the other is the effect. Paramatma is the cause, and Atma is the effect of that cause. This is the real understanding, cause and effect. So when the effect tries to become the cause, he is in distress, he is in misery. Because he thinks, I'm the cause. This is how we are leading our life. Whatever is happening right now, I am responsible for that. I am the cause of that. I am the creator. I am the doer. मेरी वजह से ही हो रहा है. मैं नहीं करती तो नहीं होता. And hence, this is the cause of our misery. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or the other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. That's what this verse is saying. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of the self, however, is, you can underline this, sorry, don't underline your Bhagavad Gita. You can note it down. The easiest process is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the great authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. In Kali Yuga, everybody likes to talk. And with the internet, that talking has become even more easy. Yap, 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 yap. My blog, my Instagram, my Facebook account, I have this to say, my opinions, my thoughts, my ideas, my solutions, my. Everybody's yapping, yapping, and yapping. And what is their qualification? Nothing. They are all into eating, drinking, merrymaking, not austere. Nobody is introspecting, no self-realization, no adherence to higher authority, no study, no renunciation, but they want to talk on the subject matter of the soul and on God. And they have an audience. All the other people like them, like to hear them. But if you really don't want to get cheated and don't want to get more confused than what you already are, accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by Lord Krishna without being deviated by other theories. Understand this science from the maker of this science. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice. Again, it comes down to 2 points. You need penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous lives, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not easy to open the Bhagavad Gita and at once accept what Krishna is saying. And also accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Doesn't come easy. Kamai karni padti hai. You have to earn credits. And what are the credits? You have to have a fat bank account, a very loaded bank account. And what is that bank account? Lots of penance and sacrifice in your previous lifetimes. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So only a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna, out of his compassion, his blessings and prayers and his mercy can make even the ignorant person see with clarity the mystery of life. The mystery with the difference between soul and super soul. This is the conclusion of all the Vedas. Vedant krit ved vid aham vedascha vedaischa sarvair. What is Krishna saying? That I am the compiler of the Vedas. I am the knower of the Vedas. Vedant krit. I am the compiler of the Vedas. Ved vid. I am the knower of all the Vedas. And what is the purpose of all the Vedas? To know me and to come to me. So if you have read and reread and written theses and PhDs on the Vedas and blah, 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 and at the end of it, if somebody asks you, so, who is the Supreme Personality, and you don't know, it's all a waste. If you don't know the conclusion of all the Vedas. It's all a waste in the sense you will continue to be unhappy and in misery. And whatever kind of solutions you try to apply to become happy in your life, they will all fail. And in the end, you will be so confused and distressed that you will end up on the doorstep of some cheating guru or Baba who will cheat you royally and nicely. And you will ultimately lose faith in God and in people and in the world and in society. And you will turn an atheist. This is the end result of speculation or people who do not read authorized scriptures, but listen to the version of all kinds of unauthorized people. Googling is the order of the day. You have any question, any doubt, just Google. Without realizing whatever Google pops up or shows you as the queries what is the source of all those articles? Are they coming from qualified backgrounds? I've heard so many people say that, oh, I don't want to go to the doctor and unnecessarily doctors will scare me. Let me first just Google my symptoms. I just have this small symptom. Let me just put it in the search engine. Okay, Google, I have this problem. And Google is going to throw you 200 permutations and combinations of that symptom. And after you read even 10 of that, what's going to be your state of mind? Clear, very clear, absolute clarity, peace of mind. Your mind is going to be one jelly. And you will end up in depression and anxiety and crying and not knowing what to do. And then ultimately you will go to your neighbor or some other person and get cheated by their gharelu nuskhe and end up spoiling your health. Now, what is the easier thing to do? Find a bona fide doctor, a qualified doctor, a doctor who is qualified in that stream, that particular symptom. And you just go to him and ask him, and he refers to his experience and his knowledge and the books that he has read, and he treats you. Vis-a-vis that whole roundabout thing. And this is exactly what is happening to the subject matter of religion today. Nobody is reading the authorized scriptures. Nobody wants to read them, but everybody talks like they are an authority. Because they say, I have my own views. This I and my views is spoiling the real science of self-realization. And that's what is amazing about this verse. This is the amazing verse. Ascharyavat pashyati, ascharyavad vadati, ascharyavat chainamanya shrinoti. Some people who are amazing look upon the soul. Some people look amazingly at the soul. Or the power to see the soul is amazing. In whichever way you look at it, this difference between soul and super soul is so amazing, and it's the only thing that you need to clarify your doubts on why you are here in this world. What are you supposed to do with your time here, and where are you going after you finish your work here and when it's time for you to give up your body? If you just understand this difference between the soul and the super soul, you are never going to be in doubt, confusion, anxiety, or lamentation. Sure, you will feel bad on the death of a loved one. Even Kunti and Arjun were mourning the death of their loved ones. That attachment, because you have had a long association with that person, it's not that this will make you inhuman and insensitive. That's not the point, but you will be able to handle that remorse in the best possible way and yet not lose track of your goal of life. And Arjun itself is giving that his life. Through his life, he gave that demonstration. When he lost Abhimanyu, I mean, what can be more traumatic than hearing that your 16-year-old child, teenager, has been cheated and brutally killed on the battlefield in front of you while you were on the battlefield and you couldn't help him. And not just killed, but killed by cheating, by breaking all the rules of the world war. The rules were that only one Mahayodha can fight another Mahayodha. Two people can't fight one. One Maharathi will fight another Maharathi. But because Abhimanyu was so strong that one Maharathi alone could never have killed him. So these 6 or 7 or 8 Maharathis together ganged up to kill the child. And when Arjun comes back and sees what has happened, does he give up the battle and say, okay, Krishna, enough. I listened to you. I followed all your instructions. And मुझे क्या मिला? मेरा एक ही बच्चा, मेरा बच्चा मर गया मेरे सामने इस तरह से. I'm going. I cannot fight anymore. He did not take a day off from his work, his duty, that is to fight. He reported on the battlefield the next sunrise. He was on the battlefield, having cremated his son the previous evening. And not only that, the very people who ganged up and killed his son visited him for the funeral of his son. And he received them with folded palms. This is austerity. And this is how you tolerate. You get the courage, you get the intelligence, and you get the realization to tolerate the difficulties and tragedies that come into your life. This is the importance, the practical strength of knowing the Shastra, of knowing the science of the soul and the super soul. That you are able to handle the biggest tragedies in your life without losing track of your goal. Am I able to make myself clear? Supposing our goal is to finish a marathon, and in between something happens and we forget altogether कि हम तो marathon में जा रहे थे. So वो जितनी भी मेहनत, months and months of preparation that you did for that marathon has all gone waste. Because you just lost track and then you went off somewhere else to do something else. So the goal of our life is to make a solution for getting out of this miseries that we are in right now. And tragedies and untimely death and any kind of setback in our health-wise, financial setbacks cannot distract us or take us away from this goal. We will lament, we will feel remorse, but we will be able to handle it and yet continue walking on the path of self-realization. Sthita dhira. Okay? So with that we close. This was a big verse. And then next class we will do the last verse, which is the 30th verse. This is the last verse on the science of the soul. After this, Krishna does not talk about the soul. Whatever he had to say about the soul, he says in these verses, 12 to 30. After that, he's going to now talk about the strategy, or what he should be doing, philosophy. So that verse we will do in the next class. Any questions? All these verses are of Gyan, and 30th verse is the last on the Gyan series. So I can continue taking the quiz since we've done these. How is the soul described as amazing? What is so amazing about the soul? Anyone? The options given here are: the soul has innumerable qualities. The soul is known for its constitution. The soul is such a small particle which is both so great and so small. None of these.
Third one.
Yes, Anju.
Third. It is great as well as small.
Yes. Okay. Even if Arjun identifies with his body as a Kshatriya body, then also how by fighting he will enjoy? Even if Arjun identifies his body as a Kshatriya body, so how will he enjoy by fighting? If he wins, he will enjoy the earth. If he dies, he will go to heaven. Both A and B, none of these.
None of
None of
these.
these. None of these.
Even if Arjun identifies with his body as a Kshatriya body, then also how by fighting he will enjoy? Isn't it that if he dies, he will go to heaven? If he wins, he will enjoy the earth?
But then if he wins, who will he enjoy his victory with? His near and dear ones will be all gone. He will have nobody to enjoy his victory with.
I think there are 2 points to this question. Actually, if he understands that he's the soul, definitely Krishna is the supreme God, then he is listening to the instructions of the supreme God. Anyway, he is following the instructions of the creator himself. So he will definitely enjoy the result. And even if he doesn't understands the soul, then if he wins, then he will enjoy definitely. And if he loses, as Krishna said, the greatest warriors, they go to the heavens. So in all senses, he's going to enjoy. I understood that as per my understanding.
Yes, you have a point, and Anjali, you're right. That's he didn't want to enjoy. There was no enjoyment in this because he wanted his relatives to be there. So none of these, yes. How by not fighting the war, Arjun will be affected? Being a Kshatriya, fighting is his duty, as performing sacrifice is the duty of a Brahmin. 2, by not fighting, he will be neglecting his duties and he will incur sinful reactions. And 3, by not fighting, he will lose his reputation as a great warrior.
3.
A. First A.
Yeah, see, the question is not from Krishna's point of view, it is from Arjun's point of view. How by not fighting the war, Arjun will be affected? Because his stand is that I don't want to fight, correct? So by not fighting, how is he getting affected, Arjun? He will be neglecting his duties and he will incur sinful reactions. Or being a Kshatriya, fighting is his duty, as performing sacrifices is the duty of a Brahmin.
I think it's all.
I think all
both.
of
I think it's both.
All of the above.
And by not fighting, he would lose his reputation as a great warrior.
Yes,
Yeah,
All three.
All these are all the reasons that Krishna told him. That you are trying to safeguard your reputation, that I will be called as the person who finished his dynasty. Krishna is saying if you don't fight also, you will have a bad reputation. If you run away from the battlefield, nobody is going to say that you ran away because of compassion. They are going to say, coward tha, bhag gaya. Final judgment of the Lord for Arjun was to dash the battle.
Fight.
Yeah. Withdraw from, die in, mislead, none of the above.
None of them. Fight the battle.
That's right. For the sake of fighting, which of the following Krishna asked Arjun to consider? Sorry?
Can you please repeat it?
जो पिछला आपने ऑप्शन उसमें कृष्ण जी ने कहा था ना, इसलिए बेटर है कि युद्ध में पीछे नहीं हटना, उसमें आपने 3 ऑप्शन दी थी ना अभी.
Yeah,
Question
final
में-
judgment. Final judgment of the Lord.
Final
for
judgment में, हाँ.
The options are Arjun was to withdraw from the battle, die in the battle, mislead the battle, or none of the above.
तो उन्होंने यही कहा था ना कि या तो युद्ध, कोई ये नहीं कहेगा कि तुम युद्ध से भाग गए हो, तो मेरे ख्याल से तो बी ऑप्शन होनी चाहिए.
Die in the battle.
No, none of the
युद्ध से भागना भी नहीं है उसको, ना तो भागना है, युद्ध तो करना ही है उसको, ना तो उसको भागना है और ना ही उसको
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, but Krishna told him fight.
फाइट, यस फाइट. तो फाइटिंग करेगा तो हो सकता है वो मर भी जाए, क्योंकि एक श्लोक में भी आया था कि हो सकता है मैं जीत भी जाऊं, हो सकता है मर भी जाऊं, रिजल्ट नहीं मालूम उसको. तो भगवान ने कहा था इससे बेटर है कि अगर युद्ध में लड़ते हुए मर जाते हो वो बेटर है, इंस्टेड कि आप युद्ध से भाग जाओ.
Yes, very nice point, Meena. You're very alert. Yes, that's a possibility too. Although I was looking for the option fight. That's more appropriate, that Krishna tells him Yudh karo. Krishna doesn't tell him the judgment of the Lord for Arjun was die in the battle. He doesn't say fight the battle. Yes, because of fight he can die, but the judgment was to
fight the battle.
And die in the battle bhi ho sakta hai, Meena. You may be right. For the sake of fighting, which of the following Krishna asks Arjun to consider? Happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, none of these.
None of this. None of these.
For the sake of fighting, which of the following Krishna asks Arjun to consider? Happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, none of these.
None of these. Consider only your duty.
Correct. Absolutely right. What is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness? Work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of a Krishna conscious work is never at a loss, even if his work is incomplete. Both A and B, none of these.
Both A and B.
Both A and B.
Absolutely right. And that was the last question of the day. So I believe nobody has any questions. Everybody has understood all the science of the soul and the super soul. Next class. I hope everybody is observing the fast today of Utthan Ekadashi. Even if you aren't, please chant more today. These last 5 days are very powerful days. And the 5 days when Bhishma was on a bed of arrows. And unko ichha mrityu ka vardhan tha, that you can give up your body at your will. And it's actually inconceivable. I can't even imagine that you have arrows. There is no inch of your body left in which there is no arrow. And the arrow has gone ar par. It has pierced from the top and gone behind, and blood is oozing out, and you are on that for I don't know how many days. And then finally you are preparing to leave your body. And in this condition, where you are so badly wounded, you're chanting prayers to Krishna. This is the height of devotion. This is called detachment from your body. So Bhishma Dev could actually detach his soul, himself, his real self from his body. In the last 5 days, he's instructing Yudhishthir on how to run the kingdom as the king of Hastinapur on the basis of Dharma, following the Shastra and running the kingdom. And he asked Krishna to be present before him so that he leaves his body while looking at his face. So these are the last 5 days of Bhishma Panchak, where he chants mantras and shlokas, instructions to Yudhishthir. You can find them online. They are there in Amrindra Prabhu's lecture. And the shlokas that Bhishma Dev recited.
Yesterday I shared that 10
You shared.
shlokas. Yeah.
So you can take those from us. Whoever wants can get in touch. It's already posted on our group. And keeping this mood of Bhishma Dev in mind, I'm sure we can chant, because neither is our body pierced with arrows, nor are we on a battlefield, nor are we on our deathbed. We're quite comfortable in our homes. And I'm sure we have the good health to chant the holy names of Krishna and the Mahamantra. So kindly chant and take up some austerity. Please take some austerity of speech or mind or body these 5 days. Give up whatever you could not do in the entire Kartik Maas or Chatur Maas. These 5 days are the days to catch up on that. Try and taste some austerity and sacrifice that we learned in the verse today. Because without austerity and sacrifice, your mind will always be clouded. Only when the water is distilled by adding some chemicals to it, potassium permanganate jab dalo, tab sari dust settle ho jati hai na pani mein, all the dust settles down and you get clear water. So the potassium permanganate of our life is austerity. That removes the confusion and the muddy from our minds. आराम से सोना, लेट उठना, खूब खाना, खूब बातें करना, mundane music sunna, mundane TV serials, televisions, whatever, internet and television browse करने से कभी भी the questions to your innermost doubts will never get answered. You will never find answers to the deeper questions in life by leading an easy life of self-indulgence and enjoyment. Only with austerity will you find the answers. And true happiness lies in austerity. The mind becomes less anxious, anxiety goes down, fear goes down, confusion goes down. And the kind of happiness and bliss that you experience cannot be disturbed by external happenings. So there's something to think about. You may read the purport of this verse again at your own leisure. With that, we close class. Let's do the closing prayers. Who would like to say after me? Let's see. Kaun hai aaj? Shweta, do you want to say the closing prayers?
Yeah.
All right. Ekam Shastram
Ekam Shastram
Devaki Putra Geetam
देवकी पुत्र गीता।
एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव
देवकी पुत्र एव
एको मंत्रस् तस्य नामानि यानि कर्मापि एकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कात्यायनी महामाये महायोगिनी अधीश्वरी नन्दगोपसुतं देवी पतिं मे कुरुते नमः श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम दासोऽहं कृष्ण तवास्मि हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय
जय
निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
हरि
बोल।
हरि हरि
हरे
बोल।
हरे
जय जय श्री राधे
जय श्री राधे
खान एकादशी की जय भीष्म पंत की जय
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण
हरे
एवरीवन
कृष्णा